There's no such thing as a homosexual Christian. If you was a homosexual and you become a Christian, you cease from being a homosexual and become pure and straight.
Wow, those are some very expressive words. We'll get back to him in a minute. Hello and welcome to the Cast Commentary. My name is Valley McLean.
And I'm Lydia Gutierrez.
And today we are discussing the First Amendment. It's specifically free speech, especially here on college campuses like ours. Wait a second. I think now would be a good time to let our audience know some things about Sam. Lydia?
Good point, Valley. Nestled away in the woods of East Texas, Sam Houston State University, or SAM, is a publicly funded university in Huntsville, Texas. We aren't far away from Houston and just a few hours away from Dallas.
Thank you for the background, Lydia. You mentioned that Sam Houston is a publicly funded university, and that brings us back to the subject of this video. You see, usually near the beginning of every semester, Sam Houston students are greeted by some non-school affiliated visitors. I like to call them yellers because, well, that is what they do. Here's a video of their greatest hits.
If you was a homosexual and you become a Christian, you cease from being a homosexual and become pure and straight. Jesus demands that you be pure and holy.
Wow, so they really do that?
Yes, they do.
How do the students feel about it?
Well, that is a good question. Let's ask.
My freshman year, there'd been a few times where I'd walked out of class and heard them say some pretty ugly things to people.
They had a sign that was like, all gays are going to hell.
One of the pastors told a girl that she was the devil.
They called a girl a Jezebel one time for wearing yoga pants.
I mean, ugly, yeah, sure, but I think that's just kind of their MO.
I was a freshman, and I think it was my second day on campus, and I was kind of taken aback.
The first time I remember seeing the campus visitors, I was a freshman, and it was very new, very weird. They were saying a lot of disrespectful things, especially to my friends.
Like, I felt personally offended by some of the things that they said, but I wasn't like, I felt uncomfortable, I guess is the correct word.
It's like I was out there one day and they told a girl she was gonna go to hell for wearing pants.
I got thick skin. I've seen it upset other people.
I felt disrespected extremely, especially because a lot of times they'll end up saying racist things in order like to prove their point or if you disagree with them.
They make a lot of like homophobic and racist remarks a lot of the time, and I do find that offensive, and it's not something that I would like to hear when I'm just trying to go to class.
They didn't say anything to me, but I was out there one day and there was a black man arguing with them and he called him a monkey.
So as you can see, their opinions vary.
See, I have a hard time believing that these yellers are not breaking a rule.
I understand that sentiment. This might be a good time to review the First Amendment of the Constitution. For that, let's turn to my good friend, Shaba, who I'm going to call.
Hey guys.
Shaba, why aren't you here?
Sorry guys, I'm stuck in traffic in I-45.
Well, can you remind us what the First Amendment says?
Absolutely. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Okay, can you repeat that last part?
Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press.
Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech.
It just seems like these yellers are going out of their way to disrupt the students.
They might, but then again, there are some Supreme Court cases that establish precedent. For example, Snyder versus Phelps.
On March 3, 2006, Marine Lance Corporal Matthew A. Snyder was killed in a non-combat related vehicle accident in Iraq. On March 10th, during his funeral, Westboro Baptist Church picketed with signs such as God Hates the USA, Thank God for 9/11, Pope in Hell, God Hates f***s, You're Going to Hell, f*** Troops, Semper Fi f***s, Thank God for Dead Soldiers, and Thank God for IEDs. They also published statements about Snyder's parents on their website, how they raised their son Catholic, teaching their son to defy his creator, raised him for the devil, and taught him that God was a liar. His father, Albert Snyder, attempted to sue Westboro Baptist Church for emotional injuries, defamation, and invasion of privacy. In Westboro's defense, they established that they complied with all local ordinances and obeyed police instructions. The picket was located approximately 1,000 feet from the church at which the funeral was held and could not be seen or heard. Mr. Snyder said that he had only glimpsed the signs during the funeral procession and did not hear or see their content until he saw it on the news and Westboro's website. Initially, U.S. District Judge Richard Bennett awarded the Snyder family $5 million in damages, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit held that the judgment violated the amendment's protections on religious expression and that the church member's speech was protected.
Seems pretty shady for a church to do that to people at funerals.
Well, they consider themselves a Baptist church. Even though they have the word Baptist in their name, they aren't actually a part of a Baptist convention. So essentially just a made-up church. Another case that helps us to understand the court's view on public speech is Cohen versus California.
19-year-old Paul Robert Cohen was convicted in 1968 for wearing a jacket that stated, "The draft." He wore it to protest the Vietnam War and wore it to a public courthouse to testify as a defense witness in an unrelated crime. An officer who noticed the jacket arrested him as soon as he exited the courtroom for disturbing the peace. He was convicted of violating Section 415 of the California Penal Code, which prohibits maliciously and willfully disturbing the peace or quiet of any neighborhood or person by tumultuous or offensive conduct. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail. Justice John Marshall Harlan found that there was no evidence that people in substantial numbers would be provoked by the jacket. While considered an inappropriate word by many, was not considered to be a fighting word because it was not directed at any specific person, and it was also not classified as obscene because it was not erotic. He also stated that anyone upset by the jacket could simply look away. Justice Harlan quoted that one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric, and warned that too much government censorship could lead to banning of expression of unpopular views.
So as you can see, there are two cases where the court ruled in favor of public speech protections. But as we heard from the students earlier, not everyone is in the mood to hear the yellers. I spoke to the Dean of Students, Chelsea Smith, about the university's role in protecting free speech. The university has to ensure that there are places on campus for anyone to come and say whatever they feel like. They have to protect a person's right to free speech, even if that speech upsets a student, like the ones we heard from earlier.
Christians, stop sitting.
We get new students every semester. And so when you got a new class of freshmen or transfer students coming in, they're having to learn the environment as well. This is not something that necessarily happens on high school campuses or maybe not even other college campuses. So yes, we constantly will receive complaints. A lot of it goes back to the education about why this is allowed being a public institution. What we like to understand, help students understand is that we have to be very content neutral and allow people the space to freely express themselves. That's what the right that we have to guarantee as a public institution as part of the First Amendment and part of our state laws.
So of course, the yellers may upset a person within earshot based on the subject of their message. But isn't that also how the free exchange of ideas work? You say what you think and another person says what they think. Isn't that how it works?
Yes, it is, and we do support freedom of speech. However, what these people are saying are pretty bad. I mean, they are saying some homophobic statements and anything of the like. So it does get you riled up and, make you want to say some things back, but that's what freedom of speech is, and we do have to protect that.
Yeah, sometimes it gets pretty tense between the campus community and some of the visitors. That's when someone from the university needs to step in before laws are broken.
A lot of times I have to educate our students that, although you may be upset and although you may, almost be baited into a response by the campus visitors, the best thing is to exercise restraint, because if you push, shove, throw something, be it a bottle of water or run off with the sign because you don't like the sign so you take it, but that person is just, saying offensive speech, they're still protected, and now you have become the person potentially that could be questioned about theft for taking the poster and running away, and or assault, because if you hit somebody because they said something that you don't like, that you're the person now that could be on criminal charges because you've now committed assault.
Yeah, we don't want anyone getting in trouble for assault.
So what do we propose we do?
Well, let's ask the students how they handle the yellers.
By law, they can be here, but there's stuff that's unethical, right?
Everybody has the right to their own opinion, but you don't have to insult people in public.
Why engage with something that's just gonna make you feel negative or yucky about the rest of your day? Might as well go and...
It's a public area, it's free speech as far as I know.
Racism is already everywhere. Like, I would rather just not engage with somebody who I already know is a racist. Like, I would just rather not.
I know some people like to ignore them, but personally, like, if I have time, like, I'm not gonna be a bigger person. Like, I love a good argument.
I walk past them, and, you know, my only hope is that, you know, they don't incite violence.
If I had to give my opinion on it, like, yeah, it's irritating. I wish they would. Like, I wish there were a way for them to not be allowed on campus, but also, like, people are gonna do whatever they want. Like, even if they weren't on campus, they were still gonna go home and believe that, so.
Sometimes it is escalated by the students coming and kind of antagonizing, and if we just kind of, if you don't like it, ignore it. If you like it, give them a high five or something, you know, just move on with your day.
Nice, those students are really smart. What do you think about this, Valley?
You know, it's definitely a very interesting situation. We can't never really put a direct black and white line on freedom of speech of what we consider right and wrong. Of course, like we said, everyone has their right to give their opinion. But also, it's really kind of hard when students are affected by it on a daily basis. But that's all that we have time for today on this segment of Cast Commentary. I would like to thank Lydia and my good friend Shaba and our production team, Kelsey and Mike. The next time you hear someone yelling something in a public space, perhaps you will look a little differently at the action, even if that person says you're Jezebel.